Hey guys, Station X here, and today we're going to be having a part 2 of a previous video. You know, the thing I did not talk about that I alluded to into the intro of this video is a Game Boy model that has eluded me for so long in my gaming collecting consoles.
What? What the f?
And what I have here is something that is just so monumentous, so outrageously stupid of an idea, but it's honestly kind of perfect for someone like me. Here it is, the Gameboy Micro.
Ooh, that's kind of small.
I mean, look at that. It's teeny tiny. Comparing it to the Game Boy Advance here, it doesn't even, it barely connects to, it's bigger than the screen. It's a tiny bit longer when it comes to this being folded, and both sides. Opening this up, that's how big that is. See, this thing is so tiny, both in screen size and just the physical thing itself. Having a 360 view of it, they didn't really cheap out when it came to this. These other things, these handhelds, feel like, they don't feel cheap, but they feel very plasticky. But this one right here reminds me more so of the old Game & Watches, which I gotta say, they don't feel cheap at all. They feel like a business person can have it in their pocket and pull it out at any time. And while the Game & Watches were just more like calculator games, this is legit a Game Boy Advance. In fact, the one downside I have for this is that it only plays Game Boy Advance. See, unlike its previous models with the original and the SP, this thing cannot play the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color games. No, it can only play Game Boy Advance games. And just so that I have it here, look at how the game cartridge is barely bigger than the screen itself. That's how tiny this is. I'm not kidding. Like, you could fit this in like a really tiny pocket. I think that's what they were going for, is that you could just whip this out anywhere and just play games on the go. And I mean, the buttons, I gotta say, do feel really nice. They're nice and, you know, pushable. I don't know if that's even a phrase I would use, but like, they don't feel like some cheap plastic or don't feel good in the hands. These are really nice, and I think this is the nicest D-pad any of the handhelds ever got. You got your start and select here, the game cartridge slot here, the power switch here, a headphone jack, which I think is hilarious, considering this didn't have a headphone jack and they decided to put it back in this. Volume right here, a little thing to make it like a keychain, and they brought back a nice decent sized bumpers. No more Tic Tacs like these, or what we would again receive with the DS. And a different charging port, very annoying. If I look at both of these, yeah, they both have the SP and the original both have the same charger. This one is unique all on its own, so good luck if you lose it. So that's all I gotta say. Trying to find this kind of charger is a pain in the butt, but I mean, when would you ever buy something like this? I mean, this is, for one of the rarer Game Boys that you'll find, because surprise, surprise, they didn't make too many of these, and these did not do very well. So, yeah, this was done a very limited time, and I do believe the DS was out when this came out. So, before I get into the obvious downsides of owning one of these, let's just talk about the positives first. Like I said, the buttons feel great. Even the shoulder buttons feel really nice. The screen, of course, is backlit, and I dare say is even better than this version of the Game Boy Advance, the AGS 101. I had to read that again. With the extra light bit, this screen's a tiny bit, like a teeny tiny bit, pun not intended, better than this one's backlight. But is it really worth it for this tiny screen? But that's up to you to decide. That's pretty much all I can say that's good about this thing. I mean, it's extremely portable, so I mean, if you want like a really portable handheld, this is it. I mean, this is the best you're gonna get. And also, one thing I almost forgot is that this faceplate, while I really can't demonstrate removing the faceplate due to my gloves making it impossible, the faceplate on this can be removed and swapped out for other faceplates. In fact, you can find them on Amazon for not that expensive. So that's all the positives I could say about this. Now to talk about the negatives. Boo! Now, what to say about this? Well, for one, cannot play previous generation Game Boy games like all these other ones can. This is the only Game Boy that can't do that. Two, it is extremely teeny tiny. It's like trying to play a video game on like an Apple Watch. You know, that's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. That's how small it is. So it's extremely hard to see what you're doing, especially if you're a person who kind of needs glasses and, you know, just won't be able to really easily navigate this. One, also, you got big hands like I do. This thing is very hard to grip. It's extremely small, so I have a hard time holding this thing without hurting my hands after a few hours. The battery life is okay. I mean, depending on how heavy use you get, you could get at least about 4 hours or so, probably more. That's just going off the top of my head, not necessarily searching up the actual battery life of this thing. And, another thing would be just because of the fact that the DS was out, the original model could play Game Boy Advance games, while having the same problem with not being able to play the original DS and original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. It could play DS games and your Game Boy Advance. I mean, that's an easy trade right there. So, honestly, would you buy this over something like this, or even this, or maybe a DS? Yes! Probably not. I would not recommend it. Unless you're this is really just for somebody who really likes collecting Game Boy or just Nintendo things in general. Nintendo's really known for making some really out there things. They don't necessarily like to follow a trend. They're never known for, you know, doing the obvious. This is definitely something out of left field and something that no one would ever be like, yeah, you know what? I could totally see them doing that. But here's how a game looks on this thing. Just gonna wait for that little classic Game Boy Advance intro. And again, you want to lower the volume. There you go. And so, right now we're playing the Namco Museum. I like playing Galaga on this. And yet, like, really, this is extremely tiny. I don't know really how I'm gonna play this. But yeah, playing it on something like this is extremely challenging for me. Because, again, it hurts my hands after a while. And it's just hard to see what I'm doing. I'm doing okay, but I'm not, like, doing the best I probably could be. That's enough of that. Yeah. So, in conclusion to this, would you buy this today? For one, also, this is expensive. When I bought this was $110. Now, I don't know if it's risen since I bought it, because I bought it almost a year ago. Or I don't know if it's gotten cheaper, so maybe some people might find it easier to buy this thing. I would only recommend it to somebody who's a hardcore Nintendo fan who loves Game Boy enough to want to buy this. And if you're gonna buy this, I would also recommend, they did have a faceplate with the Famicom theme, where they made this controller essentially look like the Famicom controller with the nice gold around the controller. But yeah, that would be the only type of person I can see buying this thing. The average person who just wants to play some Game Boy Advance games has so many better options with both the DS and just regular Game Boy Advance models on their own. This is super not necessary to play Game Boy Advance games on. But hey, you know, this fits up right up my alley because I just love the unnecessary and dumb things. But really, that's going to be all for this. I hope you have a good day and see you later.